Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I'm lucky enough to chat with Clarissa Thibeaux. Clarissa is currently on your TV as Xavin, the shapeshifting alien on Hulu's Runaways series. We discuss the show, bringing a beloved character to life when the story is different from the source material, and the thrill of a whirlwind audition process. It's a great chat, and I hope you enjoy.
Hi, Les.
Thank you so much for taking time today. I really appreciate it. I had read that that once you got the audition process for Runaways kind of going and met with Patrick, the casting director, that things happened rather quickly. Can you talk a bit about
Oh, yeah.
that feeling of going from, I mean, it's an audition. You do a lot of auditions. You got to put your tools down and just go to the next one, right? To stay sane as an actor, I would assume.
Right.
But that knowing that you got called back for a chemistry read, that's got to put that into a little bit more of a expectations bucket. Can you talk about that process and finding out that you were on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was my first time ever meeting Patrick Rush. So initially when I was going into the first audition, I never thought I was going to get it, but I wanted to do a good job so that maybe he would call me in for something else.
Right. Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy because I went in initially on a Thursday, and then the next Monday, I got a call saying, oh, they want you to test with 2 leads of the show and the showrunners and a representative from Marvel and the casting, all these people, which was very surprising to me, but still never thought I was going to get the role. I was like, oh, this is just a fluke. This is a total fluke. I mean, I'm just going to go and do as well as I can. But the process was so fast and everyone was so nice. I can honestly say for quite a few weeks following, I would wake up in the middle of the night unsure if it was just a dream. Not sure if it had actually happened, but yeah, I got cast. I went in for the chemistry read on a Thursday, and then I found out on Monday early in the morning, and then that same day in the afternoon, I went in for a table read and met the entire cast of the show. So it was super quick turnaround, and then by that Wednesday, I was shooting my first scene.
I know in my own life when I've walked into situations where where I'm supposed to be in this room, I'm on this team, but I'm also a little bit starstruck. That I'm never doing myself any favor by hesitating or holding myself back or being cautious. It 9 times out of 10 I'm supposed to be leaning into it. Is there anything that you did or that you remember doing to kind of focus or keep yourself present when you're sitting down and looking around at actors that you also like?
Right. I actually did this kind of funny exercise at the time. I had spoken to a lot of friends who had been in the position I was in and just asked what they did to not, turn into a puddle with nerves. And one of them told me to visualize my nervous self and my confident self. And I put my nervous self in my mind in a straitjacket in a corner and told them to sit down and that it wasn't their time to be here right now. And then looked at my confident self and was like, you are literally here for this moment. Come out. And I think that helps me at least breathe at a normal pace. But I did definitely have to do a couple of visualizations just so that I could focus and do my job.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't been in a situation like that before. So, and it's been wonderful. I mean, it's been like my dreams have come true.
Yeah, and it's one thing to be nervous in an office meeting where you can just stay quiet and take some notes, but your job involves your body. and involves your breath and not sounding shaky on every line just because your heart's fluttering. I would imagine that
Yeah.
being able to visualize like that, or anything to help focus would be a lifesaver. Um, can you talk a little bit about when you're going into a show that's based on a property like Runaways, where tons of the fans of the show have read the comics, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they know what's going to happen on the show. The show is far uh, from the storyline of the comics at this point, just by virtue of
Right.
well, I mean, you're not a super scroll. Um, can you talk a little bit about doing research, and then was there a process of getting the scripts or talking to the writers and them going, okay, we're super glad you read the comic, but we're not doing this bit and this bit?
Well, I mean, with Marvel and the television show in general, it's so secretive. So it wasn't until after the test that I realized exactly what character I was playing.
Gotcha.
And then immediately went online, because I hadn't had the pleasure of reading the Runaways comic book before joining the show. So I found the closest comic book store and just flipped through all of them until I saw Xavin and read through everything that they were in. And because the whole process of me coming onto the show was so quick, I got a little bit of a chance to talk to the writers, but honestly, I mean, I was in on a Tuesday doing hair makeup tests and wardrobe fittings. And then by Wednesday, I was on set filming in the morning, and then I was out in the afternoon to, enjoy my day until I was called to set, the next day.
Yeah.
So it was very quick, and when I could ask a question, I would, but I also ended up, I hadn't seen the entire show either. I think I'd seen the first 3 episodes before I booked Runaways. So then I binge watched the show, and because I'd been looking at the comic books too, I was like, oh, okay, so some things are different. And when I would get the scripts, at the initial table reads for each episode, I could see them starting to split off in different ways. And even when I would ask questions, because my character gets to do a lot of different things in the comic books, I wouldn't always get a straight answer. It's kind of a mysterious, who knows, maybe. I'm like, okay, I'll just wait until I read the script and see what happens.
Yeah, so don't close that path off, but we're not doing anything with it yet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like anything is possible. It's kind of the answer for a lot of things pertaining to my character.
I would imagine almost immediately when you start flipping through the comics, you realize how special Xavin's going to be on screen, just because that shape-shifting element allows for some gender fluidity in the comics that is just going to land differently on television and be more important and mean something very different to people who get to watch it. What was it like? Was there a process of kind of realizing, oh, I've landed a job here that actually could carry a little bit more weight than just I'm a superhero character in a show? Was there a moment of kind of realizing that you're portraying, enabled by alien specialness, but you're playing a LGBTQ character with some gender fluidity on screen?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. When I first found out that I was cast as Xavin, I think the first thing I read was the Wikipedia page, and there's a lot of things on there about Xavin's affiliation with the LGBTQIA community. So when I was reading the comics, I saw how limitless Xavin is as a character, and through the whole process of filming season 2, and then being able to engage with fans on wonderful things like Twitter or at Comic-Cons. I went to Clarissa last year. The fans are the best part of this entire experience because they're so readily available for me to debate to them. And from that too, I can use that in my own acting and inform what I'm going to do next. And I do my best, and I hope that the fans are happy with what I do, to honor all of the things that I was able to find, the research I was able to do on Xavin, because they are such an important character. And one you never, I mean, I don't know many others that are like them.
Yeah.
In any kind of, anywhere. So it's an honor, really.
I really love the framing of Xavin as a this character's limitless. That's a great way, I think, to look at the story potential of a character that has these attributes to play with. One of the most fun things that I can think of being on a genre show like this, similar to something like Legends of Tomorrow or some of the other super shows, is getting to play a shapeshifter where you get to do imitations of your fellow actors. Or where you get to shapeshift into various things. Can you talk a little bit about the actual, reality on set of playing a character that can change?
Yeah. So it's wonderful because I get a lot of credit, but in all actuality, I mean, and I get so much credit, but the reality is, I Xavin shapeshifts into a lot of different characters on the show, and it's all of those actors having to imitate me, essentially. So I've had a couple of meetings with different people from the show just asking me, okay, how would your hands move? Like, how would you blink? So it's an interesting process because our whole VFX team, they're so amazing, and they're using really interesting technology that I couldn't understand if I tried. But there's been a lot of instances, where I do the scene once, and then whoever I'm shape-shifting into will do the scene again, and somehow they mesh the two of us together. But it's nice because I just get to do one thing. Everyone else has to copy me.
It's
easy.
Was it a fun kind of bonding experience to all sit around in craft services and mirror each other's mannerisms or try to figure out how to do an impression of so and so?
Yeah, it was interesting too, because there's so many amazing actors on the show that I definitely look up to, coming to me asking me for advice on how to play me. So
well, you're the expert on
really
that.
Fun.
Yeah.
It was a nice, right, exactly. So it was, it was the best experience I could have had. It made me just feel like we're all on the same level. This is great. I'm working with my coworkers. It's been wonderful, and playing a character like Xavin is so much fun. And I think everyone else has a lot of fun playing Xavin too.
You'd said earlier that you were lucky enough to be able to talk to some friends who had kind of been at that same stage of the process and say, hey, how do I handle this, or how do I sit through a table read? I find for myself, in trying to move into new phases of life, it's always a huge step to normalize what you're about to do, to get around people who are already doing it and see that this is just a thing that you can do too. Can you talk a bit about that transition from loving acting or knowing that you want to be on stage, and then pushing into the realities of what you have to do to be professional about it?
Yeah, so I've been acting in theater and film since I was 13, but a lot of it has been in theater, and I've done a lot of smaller indie movies. But this is a whole new beast, being on a television show. Things are much bigger and faster and grander. So it did take a moment of me really making sure that I was opening my eyes and listening to everyone and asking for advice and, being humble about it when I didn't know something. Because it moves so quickly and it moves very, very fast. And there's so many working parts to everything compared to working on an indie film, say. I would help do things where, like move some, we're trying to move the set, and I'm like, oh, I'll pick up a box and help along. And on our show,
not on
there's
a TV
someone
set.
paid to do that. I'm not, if I try, I'm just getting in the way of something like that. So, it's been an interesting learning process, and it really is, we sometimes will work 12 hours Monday through Friday. So it was an interesting shift in being like, okay, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day, but, I get home at 6 p.m. or whatever. And this is how it's going to be Monday through Friday. But the next week, maybe my call time's at noon. So it was a little, having that be my consistent schedule was something to get used to. I loved it, but it definitely, it took a bit of adjusting. And I have a dog, so it's like, where do I walk her? but other than that, it's been great. It's been great.
Yeah, I have a dog as well, and I've thought about that before. How do people manage this if you're on set for like, oh well, we're going to be here an extra 4 hours. Like, oh, the dog's not going to deal with that. Uh-oh.
I know. Luckily, I have a pup who's she's very, very good, so well trained. Not by me, and she's a rescue. So I don't know where she gets it, but she's so good that luckily, even when we've had really long days, like 14-hour days, I come home and she's just happy to see me.
Yep, that's the best part of dogs.
So okay,
they're just always happy.
Yeah,
who's always glad to see you. Thank you so much for taking out time to chat with me about it today. I was really excited to talk to you. Xavin's just a cool character from the comics, and I think watching the success of Runaways has been really great. It's been great to see that it's not a fluke. That Daredevil, sure, but that was a fluke, or this, sure, but that was a fluke. But no, these shows, these stories have power. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course, anytime.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.